Welcome back. All right, so what are your thoughts on using emojis? They're fun, right? We all use a little salsa dancing one all the time. At least I do. Well, apparently there's one place people don't want to see them, and that's in work emails. A new study in Israel found that using emojis in your work emails makes you seem incompetent. And there's no reason to use them at work because it doesn't affect how friendly your coworkers actually think you are. Okay, ladies, do you use emojis in your work emails on a regular basis?
No. How? I don't have access to them.
I've been known to use a smiley face here and there.
Yeah.
But not the actual emoji, just like this.
Just a little emoticon with like the colon and the parentheses. Okay.
I try to avoid it though. I know, because I've read this before.
I want to know a little bit more about the study that was done. Okay, the little research I did put into it, it seemed like less than 600 people that participated from several countries, but I would love to know the age range.
Yeah.
Background, gender. I mean, just to have that broad statement saying that they give it no credit if an email comes through. I still think that's very subjective. I find it creative when people can put together like 10 emojis and it makes sense.
That's me. That's me.
I love that.
If we could just speak in emojis and that's it, an entire paragraph, I would be all over
done
that.
and done.
No letters
Tons of
needed.
emojis. But for work, I have never used an emoji for work, and my bosses can attest to that. I would never put an emoji in
Kissy
anything
face.
that's professional. You need to keep it professional. Emojis are, I don't want to say childlike, but they are. They're fun. They're, a little childlike in some ways, which is why you can, talk to your friends. You can talk to your friends and have conversations with just emojis, strictly emojis, and have a full conversation. You don't need to have any words, and you don't need to have a phone conversation. But at work, absolutely not. That's not professional.
I use them at work, but not a whole array. It's usually like one of the little faces, rolling eyes, whatever. And it's never an official email. It's like if I'm going back and forth with coworkers about something small or something very light, and we just happen to be using them. But most of the time, I would never write an email to my boss using an emoji like that.
Yeah.
But I also work in a very casual kind of work environment.
A little
over
bit
on radio.
same here, but I did find it interesting that they said that if anything, it makes them think that you're less competent or less intelligent, and that generally it's assumed, whether it's true or not, that it's a female.
What about your line of work, though, Amy? As being a blogger, would you use it online to do that? Because that's your professional work.
I don't do it in my written articles, no. Absolutely social media all day long. But interacting with clients, with PR professionals and whatnot, it's much more casual. People give me smiley faces all the time.
Right, so
I'll
find smiley faces.
It's almost, I can't even help myself sometimes. And I have to go back and edit my emails and be like, no smiley face, no smiley face, no smiley faces. And then I have to reword it because you're relying on those smiley faces to make you sound more friendly.
Right.
So then I'm like, well, that sounds
as an employer,
not nice. Let me fix that.
As an employer, I don't send out emails to my employees, but I will text them. And I feel like I have to follow it with an emoji sometimes so it doesn't come across as being too aggressive or mean. If I'm like, hey, can you clean out that refrigerator? Thumbs up. Thanks. You're the best.
And this goes into the discussion, too, of the whole female versus male. Because if a guy sends an email that's really short and to the point, nobody thinks anything about it. If a woman does, then, well, what's wrong with her?
Yeah,
why is
like,
she
why
angry?
is she so bossy?
Why is she mad? So you kind of feel like you have to compensate.
Yeah, that's why we've gone from using, smiley faces at the end of a sentence to just like, ha-ha, I'm breathing.
Thanks. Just kidding. All right. Well, something else that people seem to not like to see in the workplace. Yep, tattoos. An Ohio man sparked a conversation about tattoos in the workplace after sharing a touching message about his mother, a nurse whose arms are covered in ink. He was inspired to write the post after talking to his mother about how some hospitals have very, very strict policies mandating that employees don't have any visible tattoos. He said, my mom has more tattoos than I can count, and it has never affected her work ethic. She will wake up at the same time every day, and she will save a life. So I think that's pretty interesting. I went to school. I have nursing in my background, and I actually reached out to a friend of mine who is a CEO of a hospital up north. And here's what he said. He says, we have an appearance policy for our employees that does not permit visible tattoos. The policy is based on feedback we've received from patients. Most employees are able to cover their tattoo with their uniform if they have one, though. So I think that's really interesting. So it's actually patient feedback that has created the policy and the appearance code that they have in place.
I wish we had a handbook that said exactly why tattoos aren't allowed to be visible in certain workplaces. Like, what is the cognition that comes with it? Are they incapable of doing their job better? Are they less intelligent? Like, what really is behind tattoos not being able to be shown? Because I've noticed that when I worked in TV and meteorology, that they also had to be covered. Like, reporters, journalists weren't allowed to show their tattoos either. So, you know, now more jobs are beginning to accept it. So are we going to see that that's going to be happening? Because it seems like more and more people are still getting them.
Right. I'm curious this day and age, I mean, why this is still an issue. But I would say in nursing, maybe you could make the leap that a lot of your patients could be older, right? So there's a different perception of tattoos. Also, not all tattoos are pleasant to look at. Some of them can be offensive because it's a self-expression. You don't know where that person was at that time in their life. So maybe someone looking at, you know,
it's a topless woman. Like, you'll see guys have, like, you know, topless women tattooed on their arm.
And you have to make a statement rule
But that
for
has to
all
have its
people,
own rules.
Yeah,
right?
that's its own rule. Yeah.
I mean, you could make an individual rule based on, you know, content of tattoo, but I don't have a problem with them. But I can understand how maybe an older generation, the perception there would be different.
So do you think as the older generation kind of starts to go away that we'll see tattoos becoming more prevalent?
Sure. Absolutely.
I think so. I mean, right now there's 42% of the U.S. People here in the U.S. that actually have a tattoo. 42%. That's almost half.
And that's just any
that
tattoo,
has
not a whole sleeve like we saw on the nurse. I mean, anything, a little tiniest bit. Anyone's got a little tattoo. 42%. So I think definitely, it's just waiting for this generation to go on, and then you have more. The biggest workforce right now is millennials. So as we start to go into these higher management positions, you're going to see this policy absolutely change, because tattoos aren't going to keep you from doing your job well.
Right.
Granted, every company is full within their right to make rules about whether or not you have visible tattoos, and you will always have to follow that if that's a policy.
But people are going to say it's their freedom of expression. It's their right to express themselves.
But then you don't have to work there.
But the EEOC covers the actual company, saying that they can put in place that this is not your First Amendment right. This is not your right to do it. We have an appearance policy in place, so you can't do it.
And an argument could be made fashion itself is self-expression, but there are still requirements as far as what you're going to wear. And
women wears in the workplace, that is a whole other conversation that we do not have time for today. All right, well, still to come, there is a lot of debate over Confederate monuments, but who can actually make the decision to have them removed? We talk with our legal contributor, Seth Pagic, after the break.